The observation deck of the UNZ Perseverance offered a view that still made Captain Day One hold his breath. Nexus Prime hung in the darkness like a jewel, its rotating rings catching the light from the distant neutron star. The station was enormous, easily 50 times larger than Earth's biggest space habitat. 47 different species called this place home, at least part of the time. Today, humanity would try to become the 40-8th. Ambassador Ji Woo stood beside him, her reflection ghostly in the transparent aluminum viewport. She wore the formal blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her face showed no emotion, but Day One had known her long enough to see the tension in her shoulders. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, she admitted. But they don't need to know that. Behind them, Dr. Hannah was reviewing data on her tablet for the 100th time. The xenobiologist had spent 3 years studying every species in the Galactic Council, learning their customs, their biology, their ways of thinking. If anyone could help humanity navigate this political maze, it was her Lieutenant Tae Yang, checked his sidearm, more out of habit than necessity. Weapons were forbidden in the council chambers, but old military habits died hard. He was young, barely 30, and his face showed his frustration with the whole process. 3 years, he muttered. 3 years of waiting, observing, playing nice. And for what? So they can judge us? So they can know us, Ji Woo corrected gently. First contact protocols exist for a reason. We're the newcomers here. They've been doing this for 8,000 years. The docking clamps engaged with a metallic thud that resonated through the hull. Within minutes, they would walk into the council chambers and present humanity's case for membership. Everything hinged on the next few hours. The council chamber was breathtaking. It was a massive sphere, with seating arranged in concentric rings that allowed every delegate to see every other. Gravity panels kept each species comfortable in their preferred orientation. The Luminae delegates seemed to float in crystalline suspension. The Hive clan's representatives clung to vertical surfaces with their multiple limbs. Gaseous beings like the Nebula Collective swirled in containment fields. At the center sat High Arbiter Velther. The Luminae Elder was ancient, his crystalline body shot through with veins of silver that pulsed with slow light. He had overseen the council for 600 years, longer than human civilization had existed in its current form. Ji Woo walked to the speaker's platform with measured steps. Day One watched from the delegation box, his hands clasped behind his back. Hannah had her tablet ready, monitoring the biological responses of key delegates. It was a small advantage, but every edge mattered. Honored Council, Ji Woo began, her voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. I stand before you representing humanity, a species of approximately 18 billion souls spread across 12 star systems. We come seeking not just membership, but partnership. For the next hour, she presented humanity's story. She spoke of Earth, a world of remarkable diversity that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times. She explained how humans had finally achieved unity, not through conquest, but through choice. She showed images of human art, music, literature. She displayed scientific achievements, from splitting the atom to bending space-time itself. She was careful to address their concerns. Yes, humanity had a violent history. Yes, they had nearly wiped themselves out with nuclear weapons. But they had learned. They had grown. They had earned the right to be here. When she finished, the chamber fell silent. Delegates conferred in dozens of languages, creating a low murmur like distant thunder. High Arbiter Velther's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Your presentation is noted, Ambassador. Humanity shows promise. However, you are young, impulsive. Your species achieved spaceflight only 3 centuries ago. You reached for the stars before you fully mastered yourselves. Da One felt his jaw tighten. Beside him, Taeyang's hand moved unconsciously toward his empty holster. Therefore, Velther continued, the Council has decided to grant humanity a probationary period. In 50 standard years, we will reconsider your application. During this time, you will demonstrate your ability to exist peacefully within galactic civilization. 50 years. 2 entire human generations. Ji Wu's face remained calm, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped the podium. With respect, High Arbiter, she said carefully, could you clarify the criteria for this probationary period? What specifically must humanity demonstrate? Velther's crystalline form seemed to shimmer with what might have been amusement. You must prove you are stable, peaceful, worthy of sitting among species that have existed for millions of years. The details will be provided in due course. Envoy Kroth, the insectoid representative from the Hive clans, clicked his mandibles. The probationary period is standard for volatile species. Some wait 200 years. 50 is generous. Ji Wu bowed slightly. Of course. Humanity is grateful for the Council's wisdom. May I ask what restrictions will be placed on us during this period? Standard limitations, Velther said dismissively. No expansion beyond your current systems. Trade agreements must be approved by Council oversight. Military assets will be monitored. All very reasonable. Counselor Morphix, the gaseous entity from the Nebula Collective, spoke in a voice like wind through caves. The young tree bends in the storm, or it breaks. Choose wisely which you will be. The session ended shortly after. As they returned to the Perseverance, nobody spoke. Day One watched Ji Wu carefully. She stared straight ahead, her diplomatic mask firmly in place. Only when they reached the privacy of the captain's ready room did she allow herself to slump into a chair. 50 years, she whispered. My children will be old before we get another chance. Dr. Hana was already at her tablet, pulling up data. Did you notice the responses when Velther announced the decision? The Hive clans showed approval. The Nebula Collective remained neutral, but several other species showed what I interpreted as concern, possibly even sympathy. Doesn't matter, Taeyang said bitterly. We're stuck. 50 years of being second-class citizens in our own part of space. Day One moved to the viewport, staring at the massive station. Something felt wrong. Velther's dismissiveness had been too practiced, too smooth. The restrictions too specific. He had commanded ships for 20 years and learned to trust his instincts. Run a search, he told Hana. Find out what happened to other species who went through probationary periods. How many succeeded? How many failed? What happened to the ones who failed? Hannah's fingers moved across her tablet. After a moment, she looked up, her face troubled. There's surprisingly little public information available, but I can find references to 3 species in the last 500 years. The Verlax, the Trenny, the Kalish Dominion, and Ji Wu prompted. They all withdrew their applications, became minor, isolated civilizations. I can barely find any current information about them. Silence filled the room. Day One turned from the viewport, his decision made. Start digging deeper, quietly. Something about this doesn't add up. Ji Wu nodded slowly. We play along, follow their rules. But we watch, and we learn. And if we find something? Taeyang asked. Day One's expression hardened. Then we decide if patience is still the right strategy. Outside, Nexus Prime rotated serenely against the stars, ancient and beautiful. Inside its halls, something old and corrupt continued its work, not yet realizing that humanity was not like the others who had come before. Humans could be patient. They could be diplomatic. They could follow rules, but they never stopped asking questions. And they never forgave betrayal. 6 months had passed since the Council's decision, and Commander Subin stared at her screen with growing unease. The data made no sense unless someone was lying. Trade routes that should have been approved sat in bureaucratic limbo. Survey permits for mineral-rich asteroids got rejected without explanation. Communication relays near human space kept experiencing mysterious malfunctions. She sat in her office aboard Earth's orbital intelligence station, surrounded by holographic displays showing shipping lanes, communication patterns, and fleet movements. As head of external intelligence, her job was to watch for threats. Right now, she was seeing patterns that made her skin crawl. Her assistant, researcher Dong Hyan, knocked on the open door. He was a civilian analyst, brilliant with data, but inexperienced in fieldwork. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. "Commander, you need to see this." He transferred files to her main display. "I've been going through public council records, like you asked. The 3 species who withdrew their applications. I found something." Subin leaned forward. "Show me." The Verlacs applied 212 years ago. During their probationary period, they reported several incidents: pirate attacks on their trade vessels, resource shortages, political interference. Then they withdrew. Dong Hyan pulled up more data. The Trenny, 147 years ago. Same pattern. Attacks, shortages, interference, withdrawal. That could be coincidence, Subin said, though she did not believe it. Then there's the Kalish Dominion, 83 years ago. I managed to access some of their archives through a back channel. Commander, they didn't just withdraw. They were destroyed. Their economy collapsed. Their government fell apart. Now some of them match records from species the Council destroyed, Boara said. The Trenny had ships like these before they fell. So did the Kalish. Someone has been collecting technology from failed probationary species. Or using them, Ji Wu said quietly. The Council doesn't do its own dirty work. It hires proxies. Species desperate enough to do anything for resources and protection. Subin pulled up files on her tablet. We hacked the station's network. Partially, anyway. The communications we intercepted prove that High Arbiter Velther knows about this fleet. So do 6 other senior council members. They've been planning this for months. Planning what, exactly? Day 1 asked, though he suspected he already knew. An incident. Subin displayed intercepted messages. They're going to stage an attack on a council member's colony and blame humanity. It gives them legal justification to use overwhelming force against us. The inspection was gathering intel on our defenses. They want to know exactly how to hit us hardest. Lieutenant Taeyang slammed his fist on the table. So we strike first. Hit that station before they can launch. And prove we're the aggressors they claim we are? Ji Wu shook her head. We need to expose this to the full council. Most of those species don't know about the conspiracy. If we can show them proof, they'll bury it, Hyan Wu interrupted. Velther controls the council chamber. He'll dismiss our evidence as forgeries. Call us paranoid. By the time anyone investigates, we'll be destroyed. Silence filled the room. Everyone felt the trap closing around them. Every option seemed to lead to disaster. Finally, Daewon spoke. We do both. Ambassador Ji Wu, you prepare a presentation with every piece of evidence we have. You'll broadcast it to every council species simultaneously, straight to their homeworlds. They can't suppress it if everyone sees it at once. And militarily? Hyan Wu asked. We prepare for war. Full mobilization, quietly. Every reserve ship gets activated. Every defense station goes to high alert. We position our forces to protect the colonies, especially the vulnerable ones. Day 1's face was grim. And we hope diplomacy works. But we're ready if it doesn't. The meeting broke up quickly. Everyone had work to do. As people filed out, Ji Woo caught Day One's arm. "If this goes wrong, we could lose everything," she said softly. "If we do nothing, we definitely lose everything." Day One met her eyes. 14 months ago, I told you we could be patient. I still believe that was right. But patience without strength is just surrender. They need to understand that we're not the Verlax or the Trenny. We won't just disappear quietly. 2 days later, the message came. Urgent from Earth's outer colonies. The colony on New Jeju, a terraformed world with 2 million inhabitants, reported unknown vessels entering their system. Lots of them docked Captain Young Mi, and the Un's Horizon were the only military vessel in the area. She sent one final transmission before engaging the enemy. "This is Captain Young Mi to all Earth forces. We are under attack by unknown hostiles. At least 40 ships. They're not asking us to surrender. Tell Admiral Hyan Wu this is it." This is the incident they planned. On Nexus Prime, High Arbiter Velthor called an emergency council session. His crystalline form pulsed with artificial concern. "Terrible news, honored delegates. Human vessels have attacked the Corvesh colony in the Delta sector. Unprovoked aggression. We have evidence." Ambassador Ji Woo stood up. "You have fabrications, and I have truth." Before Velthor could silence her, she activated the broadcast. Every screen in the council chamber lit up. And beyond the station, on 47 different homeworlds, billions of aliens watched as Ji Woo displayed everything. The hidden station, the proxy fleet, the intercepted communications, the evidence of conspiracy stretching back centuries. "The attack on New Jeju isn't humanity starting a war," Ji Woo declared, her voice carrying across the galaxy. "It's the Council's leadership trying to finish one they started long ago. Against the Verlax, the Trenny, the Kalish, and now us. But we're not going to let history repeat." Velthor's form flashed angry red. "This is slander. Remove her. Remove yourself," Envoy Krath said, standing. The Hive clan representative's voice was cold. "I've suspected for years. Now I have proof. You've turned the Council into a criminal organization." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Some delegates supported Velthor. Others demanded answers. But Ji Woo did not stay to watch. She was already running for her shipdock at New Jeju. Young Mi's horizon took fire from 6 directions at once. Her shields were failing. Hull breaches on 3 decks. Half her weapons were offline. But she kept fighting, buying time for civilian evacuation ships to escape. "All crew, this is the captain," she announced. "Abandon ship protocols. Get to the escape pods. That's an order." Her tactical officer looked at her in shock. "Captain, what about you?" Young Mi smiled grimly. "Someone needs to pilot this old girl one last time. Now go." "That's an order." As her crew evacuated, Young Mi programmed a final course. The Horizon's engines roared to full power, aimed straight at the enemy flagship. The last thing she saw before she jumped into an escape pod herself was her ship slamming into the enemy at relativistic speed, tearing it apart in a blaze of light. Admiral Hyan Wu's hidden fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel right into the battle. 27 visible ships suddenly became 94. The proxy fleet had expected an easy victory. Instead, they faced humanity's full wrath. And across the galaxy, the lies that had held the Council together for centuries were finally burning away. The Battle of New Jeju would be studied for centuries. Not because of its size, though 90 human ships against 140 enemy vessels was significant. Not because of casualties, though those would be heavy on both sides. But because it was the moment when humanity showed the galaxy who they really were. Admiral Hyan Wu watched tactical displays from the bridge of the Inchin. Red dots represented enemy ships. Blue dots were human vessels. The space around New Jeju looked like a storm of colored light as ships maneuvered, fired, and died. Enemy flagship is repositioning, his tactical officer reported. They're trying to break through to the civilian evacuation routes. Captain Kyung-hee, take your squadron and intercept. Don't let anything through. Hyen-woo zoomed in on the planet below. 2 million people were trying to evacuate. Most had reached underground shelters, but thousands were still boarding transport ships. On the planet's surface, diplomat Kyung-suk coordinated the evacuation. She had been visiting New Jeju for trade negotiations when the attack began. Now she stood in the colony's command center, directing traffic like a conductor leading an orchestra. Transport 7, you have hull damage. Reroute to Bay 12 for repairs. Transport 19, you're clear for launch. Stay in the shadow of the planet until you can jump. Her voice stayed calm even as explosions lit up the sky above. All remaining civilians, head to shelters Alpha through Gamma. We're sealing them in 5 minutes. A young colonist, no more than 16, ran into the command center. My parents are still out there. They were at the farming station. Kyung-suk grabbed the girl gently but firmly. Listen to me. The shelters can survive almost anything. Your parents know that. They're probably already safe. But I need you to get to safety too. Can you do that for me? The girl nodded, tears streaming down her face, and ran toward the nearest shelter entrance. In space, Lieutenant Tae-young led his squadron in a desperate assault. His targeting computer identified the enemy command ship, the same one young Mi had damaged with her sacrifice. It was trying to retreat, its shields flickering. All wings, focus fire on those shield generators. We end this now. Tae-young's fighter dove toward the massive vessel, dodging defensive fire. His squadron followed in perfect formation, a dance they had practiced 1,000 times. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams carved molten lines across the enemy ship's hull. One of Tae-young's pilots took a direct hit, her fighter disintegrating in a ball of fire. He gritted his teeth and kept flying. Shields down. Someone shouted. Hit them now. 20 human fighters unleashed everything they had at once. The enemy command ship's bridge exploded in silence, atmosphere venting into space. The massive vessel began to drift, powerless, but the victory was brief. 3 enemy cruisers moved to cover their flagship's retreat, and they were targeting the evacuation transports. No, you don't, Tae-young muttered. He pulled his fighter into a sharp turn that made his vision blur. Squadron, with me? We're running interference. It was suicide, and everyone knew it. Fighters against cruisers was like throwing stones at tanks. But those transports were full of civilians, of children, of people who had done nothing except have the bad luck to be human in a galaxy that saw them as disposable. Tae-young thought of his sister back on Earth. She had 2 kids, both under 10. He had promised to visit them after this mission. That probably was not happening now. His fighter screamed through space, dodging weapons fire that could vaporize him in an instant. He fired his missiles not at the enemy ships, but at their targeting sensors. Blind them. Confuse them. Buy the transport 60 more seconds. That was all they needed. The evacuation ships jumped to faster-than-light travel, escaping just as enemy fire converged on their position. Tae-young's fighter took a glancing hit. His cockpit filled with smoke. Warning alarms screamed. He aimed his dying ship at the nearest enemy cruiser and prepared to eject. Before he could, a massive barrage of fire struck the enemy cruiser from the side. Admiral Hyen-woo's battle group had arrived. The cruiser exploded in a flash of light, so bright Tae-young's canopy automatically darkened. All fighters fall back to the Inshin. Hyen-woo's voice boomed over the communication channel. Good work, Lieutenant. Now let the big ships finish this. Back on Nexus Prime, the council chamber was in chaos. 20 species were demanding answers. Another 15 were trying to defend Velthur. The remaining 12 seemed too shocked to speak. Ambassador Ji Wu stood at the center of the storm. Calm and focused, Dr. Hannah stood beside her, tablet ready, providing real-time data to counter every lie. You manipulated evidence. Illumine delegates shouted. We have the source files. Hannah responded immediately, complete with timestamps and encryption signatures. Your own security protocols verify their authenticity. The humans are paranoid. Another delegate argued. They see conspiracies everywhere. Then explain this. Ji Wu displayed communications between Velthir and the proxy fleet commanders. Explain why your High Arbiter has been coordinating with pirates and mercenaries. Explain why his personal accounts show payments to species that officially don't exist anymore. Envoy Kraft's mandibles clicked rapidly. I call for an immediate vote of no confidence in High Arbiter Velthir and his associated counselors. This council was founded on principles of peace and cooperation. What we've seen today is neither. Counselor Morphix, the gaseous being who rarely spoke clearly, suddenly became focused and direct. I second this motion. For too long, I have watched and wondered. Now I know. The rot must be cut away before it spreads further. Velthur's crystalline form flashed angry red. You would trust these humans? These violent primitives? They've been here barely a year. And in that year, they've shown more integrity than you've shown in 600 years. Kraft snapped. Motion carries. Security. Remove the accused counselors. What happened next was unprecedented. Council security, loyal to the institution rather than individuals, moved to arrest Velthur and 6 other senior members. 2 went quietly. Velthur tried to flee and was stunned. The others surrendered when they realized they had no support left. As they were led away, Ji Wu allowed herself one moment of satisfaction. Then she opened a channel to New Jeju. Admiral Hyan Wu, what's your status? His face appeared on her screen, smudged with smoke. Enemy fleet is breaking off. We've taken casualties, but we held the line. New Jeju is safe. Relief washed over Ji Wu so powerfully she nearly collapsed. Hannah caught her arm, steadying her, broadcasting victory to all human forces and allies. Ji Wu announced to the council chamber. The attack has been repelled. The colony survives. And the truth is now known throughout the galaxy. She turned to face the remaining delegates. Now, honored council, we have a choice. We can continue as before, with lies and manipulation and fear. Or we can build something better. Something honest. Something worthy of the ideals this council claims to represent. On New Jeju, Pyong-suk emerged from the command center into smoky air. The battle had left scars across the sky, but the colony stood. She saw the young girl from earlier reuniting with her parents, all 3 of them crying and holding each other. Lieutenant Taeyong's damaged fighter limped back to the engine. His hands shook as he climbed out of the cockpit. Other pilots gathered around, slapping his back, laughing with relief. They had survived. Against odds that should have killed them, they had survived. Captain Day 1 watched everything from the Perseverance, feeling old and tired. They had won, but the cost was high. 17 ships destroyed. Over 3,000 dead. Captain Young Mi was in medical bay, recovering from her escape pod's impact injuries. He opened a channel to all human forces. This is Captain Day 1 to all vessels and personnel. The battle is over. We won. Not because we were stronger or had better weapons, but because we refused to accept injustice. Because we stood together. Because we made them understand that humanity is not prey. He paused, thinking of all the people throughout history who had fought similar battles. For thousands of years, humans have faced those who thought they were superior, who thought they could exploit us, dominate us, destroy us. Every time, they learned the same lesson. We can be patient. We can be diplomatic. We can be reasonable. But we will never be victims. Across human space, from Earth to the farthest colonies, people cheered. They had been the newcomers, the probationary species, the ones judged unworthy. Now they had proven themselves in the only way the galaxy seemed to understand. 2 weeks after the Battle of New Jeju, the Galactic Council looked very different. High Arbiter Velther sat in a detention cell on his own homeworld, awaiting trial. His 6 co-conspirators were similarly imprisoned. A proxy fleet had scattered to the edges of known space, hunted by a coalition of angry species who had finally learned the truth. Ambassador Ji Woo stood in the rebuilt council chamber. Rebuilt not physically, but politically. 23 species had formed what they called the Coalition of Truth, demanding immediate reforms. Envoy Kraft led them, his methodical hive clan mind perfect for organizing revolutionary change. 15 species, called traditionalists, resisted. They argued that the council's structure had maintained peace for 8,000 years. Yes, there had been corruption, but throwing everything away was foolish. 9 species remained neutral, waiting to see which direction the wind would blow. Ji Woo had been invited to address the reformed council. As she walked to the central platform, she thought about everything that had brought them here. The patience, the investigation, the battle, the deaths, 3,000 human lives, countless others who had died over centuries in a system built on lies. Honored delegates, she began, her voice carrying through the chamber. 2 weeks ago, humanity faced annihilation. Not because we were aggressive, not because we threatened anyone, but because we dared to ask questions, because we refused to accept injustice quietly. She paused, letting that sink in. Many of you expected us to demand revenge, reparations, blood for blood. Some of your intelligence services have reported that human military forces are stronger than we initially showed. You're worried we might use that strength to punish you. Nervous murmurs rippled through the chamber. Ji Woo smiled slightly. You're right to worry. Humanity does have strength, but we also have memory. We remember every species that stood with us when the truth was revealed. We remember those who demanded justice. And yes, we remember those who tried to defend the indefensible. She looked directly at the traditionalist delegates. But we also remember our own history. We remember what happens when the powerful seek revenge instead of reconciliation. She pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's bloody history, wars, genocides, cycles of violence that lasted centuries. This is what we were. This is what we learned to move beyond. Not because we forgot the past, but because we chose to build something better than our pain. Captain Day 1 watched from the delegation area, proud of how Ji Woo commanded the room. Beside him, Dr. Hannah monitored delegate responses. She whispered, "Stress levels are decreasing. They're listening." Ji Woo continued, "So here is what humanity proposes. Not demands, proposes. Because we want partners, not subjects." She displayed a document that had taken 2 weeks and input from dozens of human experts to create. The new Galactic Accord. 5 core principles. The first principle appeared in glowing text. 1. Transparent governance. All council records are public unless they involve genuine security concerns. And those security classifications expire after 50 years. No more secret deals. No more hidden fleets. Kraft's mandibles clicked in approval. Several other delegates nodded. 2. Equal standards. The probationary period is abolished. Either a species is ready for membership or they're not. And that decision is made by objective criteria, applied equally to everyone. No more making species wait for generations while their resources are exploited. The traditionalists looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up. 3. Democratic representation. Voting power is based on population and contribution, not on how long you've been a member. Ancient species don't get automatic superiority. You earn respect through action, not age. Now the traditionalists were muttering. One stood up. This would fundamentally change the balance of power. Yes, Ji-Woo agreed. That's the point. The old balance of power was corrupt. We're building a new one based on merit and participation. Counselor Morphix spoke in their clear, focused voice. Continue, Ambassador. What are the remaining principles? 4. Mutual defense. Real cooperation, not exploitation. When one species is threatened, all respond. But that obligation flows both ways. No more proxy wars. No more letting certain species be destroyed for profit. She pulled up images of the Verlax, Shreni, and Kalish Dominion. And 5. Restoration. We find the species who were destroyed by the old Council's policies. We help them rebuild. We make amends for the crimes committed in this chamber's name. The proposal hung in the holographic display. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Krath stood. The Hive clans accept these principles. We will work to implement them. One by one, the coalition of truth species added their support. Then, surprisingly, Morphix spoke again. The Nebula Collective also accepts. We have been silent too long. Silence in the face of wrong is its own form of wrong. Even some traditionalists began to shift. Not all of them. Some would never accept change, but enough to matter. A week later, Ji-Woo stood with Captain Day 1 on the observation deck of the Perseverance. Through the viewport, they watched construction crews working on a new station. It would be called Unity Point, built by volunteers from 30 species working together. Do you think it will last? Day 1 asked. Real change, I mean. Not easily. There will be resistance. Corruption doesn't die just because you expose it once. Ji-Woo watched a human worker guiding a structural beam into place alongside a Lumine engineer. But we've created momentum, and we've proven that change is possible. Admiral Hyun-Woo joined them, looking more relaxed than he had in months. The military forces were standing down, returning to peacetime operations. Captain Young-Mi is being awarded the Star of Valor, first human to receive it from the new council. She earned it, Day 1 said. Young-Mi's sacrifice had bought time for thousands to escape. That her sacrifice had not been final made it no less heroic. Commander Subin appeared on the communication screen. She was back on Earth, reorganizing intelligence operations to work with the Council's new transparency requirements. Ambassador, you should see this. The Verlax remnant just made contact. They want to meet with us. With humans specifically. Ji-Woo felt a chill. The Verlax? But they were destroyed 200 years ago. Not destroyed. Driven into hiding. They survived in isolated colonies, keeping their heads down, trying not to be noticed. But now that the truth is out, they want to come home. Subin smiled. They're calling humans the bridge builders, the species that broke the old system to build something better. Later that day, Ji-Woo received a message from Lieutenant Tae Yang. He had been promoted to captain and given command of a new vessel. But that was not what his message was about. Ambassador, I wanted to apologize. I was angry for so long, impatient. I thought patience was weakness. I was wrong. Patience gave us time to gather evidence, time to build alliances, time to be ready when the fight came. He paused, looking uncomfortable with emotion. My nephew asked me what the battle was about. I told him it was about standing up to bullies. But it was more than that. It was about being smart enough to know when to talk and when to fight. Ji Woo saved the message. In the years to come, she would replay it often, whenever the work of building the new council became frustrating. Because change was slow. Bureaucracy was stubborn. Old habits died hard, but they did die eventually. 5 years later, the first edition of the new Galactic Accord was ratified by 42 species. 3 had left the council entirely, unwilling to accept the changes. 2 new species joined, attracted by the promise of genuine equality. Humanity took a permanent seat on the reformed council, not because of their military strength, though that had proven considerable, not because of their technology, though human innovation continued to impress, but because they had demonstrated something the galaxy desperately needed: the courage to question authority, the wisdom to prepare before acting, the strength to fight when necessary, and most importantly, a vision to build instead of destroy. Captain Day 1 retired from active service and became Earth's representative to the Council. Ambassador Ji Woo continued her diplomatic work, now teaching younger humans and aliens alike about negotiation and compromise. Dr. Hana founded the Institute for Interspecies Understanding. Commander Su Bin ran the new Galactic Intelligence Oversight Committee, ensuring transparency. And on New Jeju, they built a monument. It listed the names of everyone who died defending the colony, human and alien alike, because in the battle's final hours, several coalition species had sent ships to help Dot at the monument's base. They carved words that Captain Young Mi had said right before her famous attack run. Some things are worth fighting for. Some things are worth dying for. But the best things are worth living for, together. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Not all species that seemed weak actually were. Some just had longer patience. Some just needed a good reason to show their strength. Humanity had been patient for 14 months. They had tried diplomacy. They had followed rules. They had given peace every chance to work. But when peace failed, they had been ready. And when they had fought not just for themselves, but for every species that had been exploited and destroyed by the old order. The galaxy would never forget. And neither would humanity. They were the bridge builders now. The species that shattered an unjust system and rebuilt it better. The ones who proved that patience and strength were not opposites, but partners. And in the endless darkness between stars, on the new stations and old worlds, in academies and fleet exercises and diplomatic chambers, a new lesson was being learned. When humans say, wait, listen, they might be gathering evidence. They might be building alliances. They might be preparing defenses you cannot see. But when humans say, enough, run, because their patience has limits. And when those limits are reached, the galaxy changes.